This video won't have any sort of long philosophical introduction into how it's important to stay focused. Since you clicked here, you already know all this. Instead, I will explore practical tips and strategies that I use on a daily basis to stay as focused as I can during my study sessions. We will talk about what to do before you start your studying, how to maintain that focused state, and finally, how to know when to stop and what to do in between. So, without further ado, let's dive straight into it. But I am keeping my fancy intro though, I'm sorry. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're a returning subscriber, definitely welcome back, glad to see you. My name's Artem, I'm a computational neuroscience student and researcher. Here we explore mental and digital tools to help us study and learn more effectively. Like I promised, today we are going to talk about how to focus. But before you actually have a problem of maintaining a focus, you need to develop that state of attention in the first place. Most of the time, that's actually the hardest part, because at the moment it might seem impossible to go from lying on a couch watching Netflix to writing that essay you have been putting off for 2 weeks now. And the thing that really helps is if you have some interest, some excitement, some curiosity about the stuff you're going to do. For example, if I have to read a bunch of articles, or I don't know, write a script that I don't know how to start, and I'm just lying there procrastinating, it helps me if I just recall all the stuff that actually made me choose this lab, why I do what I do, why I took this class, for example, just to refresh those memories of exciting moments about, the process of discovery, of learning something new, or, maybe you just like the process, you're passionate about it, stuff like that. It helps you to bring back this spark that gets the momentum going. Another cool trick is to gradually increase the target level of focus and alertness. And here's what I mean. Suppose that axis is time, and here is your mental energy, right? This includes like level of focus, alertness, the cognitive load, something like that. Suppose initially this level is very low. So you're watching highlights from How I Met Your Mother. You want to get to that level, right? This is where you solve your problem sets. This sudden jump, that difference of energy, you can't do it instantly. The delta E is too big. What you could do is say, you know what? Before I start solving problems, I'm going to do some light reading, right? So you kind of insert a stepping stone in between. For example, an interesting article on Quantum magazine, or an intriguing TED talk that you have been putting off, lying around in your watch later playlist. You see, you break up the energy level into two lower levels. So here's delta E1 and here is delta E2. Right? The difference of energy. And that barrier, it's pretty achievable. So you go from procrastination to reading something you're passionate and excited about, driven by that interest and excitement. And then, 20, 30 minutes later, you remember about problem sets, but you already have some focus, some alertness. You already got into the mood, into the zone, and you're like, you know what, I don't actually mind doing these problem sets right now altogether. So that's a very interesting technique that you could try out in case you have to do something really disgusting and you don't know how to start. Like, before you get started, it helps to dedicate a certain time frame. If you sit down to read a paper or to do homework, it really helps to say, you know what, from right now I'm going to work for 60 minutes or 30 minutes or 90 minutes. I don't recommend doing more than 90 minutes in one sitting, but you have to be explicit, you have to put it in your calendar. What it does is that if you have a certain time frame to anchor you, it actually improves your focus. I have experienced that countless times myself, and it's actually been experimentally proven that time pressure like this improves attention. So give it a go. Next one is the role of environment. And you shouldn't underestimate the role of an environment where you are located when you study. It happened to me many times when I was back in my dormitory. There's roommates around, there is empty bottles from yesterday's party lying around there, your bed is right next to you. So the whole atmosphere. Even though nothing explicitly distracting yourself, no noises, for example, just, you can put your headphones on. But something in that atmosphere that's not promoting productive work. If you can, get a quiet, cozy place in your house where you would feel this is the place that actually promotes productive work I'm about to do. So certainly don't do it on your bed. When I realized this, that, I can't do anything pretty much in this environment, I started going to coffee shops, and then I discovered public libraries. So now I pretty much spend the entire day at the library. It's such a game changer, trust me. Environment is key in that sort of thing. Finally, make use of environmental and behavioral hooks. By doing certain behavior before or during your focus session repeatedly, you condition your brain to enter that state when it feels the cue. For example, get a lamp and you would turn this on whenever you study. And when you don't study, you turn this off. And this is crucial. You do this for a while. And when you want to study, but you just don't feel like it, you turn on the lamp and suddenly, it makes it much easier to enter that focus state. Another example would be since I spend so much time in the library and it's pretty big, there are all sorts of different sections of the hall. There are a lot of empty places, so I kind of created a spatial separation pattern for myself. In this corner, I usually read scientific articles. Here is where I edit my videos. If I'm sitting next to this window, I'm doing my homework. And throughout my day, I kind of transition, I go around these corners, and whenever you enter a particular environment, and if your brain is conditioned, it makes it much easier. But the coolest example of this conditioning that I make use pretty much every day is to condition yourself on music. You get a study playlist, a study mix, and you play a particular type of music every time you do your work. I chose lo-fi mixes, so I have different type of lo-fi mixes for different sort of work. I think I'm physiologically addicted to lo-fi at this point, but it works like magic, trust me. I really discovered it a few months ago when, I don't know, maybe I had too much sugar in my latte, but I had this paper to read and I just didn't feel like it. I felt so drowsy and in the mood of just mindlessly scrolling my feed. Nothing was helping. I put my music on, and just a few seconds into the track, maybe like 10 seconds, this drowsiness, this brain fog, it almost disappears. It makes it so much easier to enter this attentional state. Now, every time I do something, I put on a track that matches it. It really puts me into the zone. So that definitely works. And if you haven't already, try this study playlist. And so once you have finally everything set up, you have a nice environment, you have your lo-fi playing in your earphones, you're excited to do the work you're about to do, but then what happens is you have a phone lying around here somewhere, and occasionally Facebook sends you notifications, YouTube sends you notifications, somebody texted you, or you do your work on the computer, you see some news, or you see somebody posted a new Instagram picture, whatever. You have all sorts of these distractions that are competing with that attention that you are supposed to be putting right here, but instead of you are all over the place. A little bit here, a little bit there. I'm a terrible artist, but you get the point. You can't do this focused work. And basically, the solution is really simple. We just eliminate all of these distractions. If there is nothing to distract you, that beam of attention that you spent a while growing, preparing your environment, it's really bright, and the good thing is it has nowhere to go, right? Because your table is empty, nothing's in the background, so you do really focused, productive work during that period. The thing is to eliminate these distractions, or not eliminate, but introduce enough friction between you and the destructive processes to break this habit. Let's talk about how to do that, how to eliminate all these distractions. Let's start with your phone. The situation with that is really simple. Bottom line, you do not need it during your study time. You have to put that away. I mean that. Don't just turn on the do not distract and put it right next to you. Because even though you're not receiving notifications, you're still going to be like, wait a minute. Nah, nothing new. So where was I? Wait, does she have any new photos? You want to put that out of your reach. What you do is you turn on the airplane mode, or better, turn it off completely, and you put it where you won't reach it. Like, stick it in a drawer in another room, or bury it underneath a pile of clothes, or, if you are somewhere in the library, put it in a bag. You don't want this black rectangle to hook your visual attention. One thing that I sometimes do is that, if I'm in a library and the phone it kind of feels in my pocket, it's too large, what I do is that I put it on the table, but not here. I put it behind the laptop. So, like there. Basically, when you do your work, you don't see it. It's not distracting you. It really works. Trust me, those couple of centimeters, they actually make a huge difference. But, the safest thing is just to put it in your bag or somewhere. Don't panic about missed calls or missed text. Since, your study session lasts for like an hour, you can always call back. You can always check it after you're done. So it's not a big deal. Now, where things get really interesting is with your computer or your laptop or a desktop. Because if you don't have paper textbooks, you are using this thing to study. You can't eliminate that. But at the same time, it's a source of so many distractions. So first of all, let's be honest. The only source of distractions on your machine is the internet. It's nice if you can spend hours procrastinating in Python, but I think to most of the people, the internet is the thing that causes a lot of problems. So we're going to focus on that. So what you need to do is to identify sources of internet distractions, the websites that you tend to get sucked into. To me, I know that it's news resources about esports, those websites that are completely irrelevant, that you are not going to use anytime during your study session. I use a wonderful app. I think it's only for Mac, but on Windows, I'm pretty sure there are a lot of analogs that have the same functionality. The app is called Self-Control. You set a timer and you set a block list of websites that you want to block access to. And once you press the button, there is no way back, even if you uninstall the app. Even if you restart your computer, there is nothing you can do. You don't have any option other than wait for the timer to tick out. You can bypass that with VPN, but we're trying to introduce friction. So if I really need to access the website that I accidentally blocked at some point, I can do that. But it requires a lot of work. I mean, I have to start the VPN, the connection would be slow. So most of the time when you go to a favorite social media, right, you go to Facebook or you go to Instagram, it's like a couple of clicks away. I mean, it's already in your favorites bar, or you already know how to fast type the address. So, when you type Instagram.com, press enter, and you see that you can't access the page, you remember, right, yeah, I'm supposed to focus, and you get back to studying. It really saves you a lot of time and a lot of nerves. So self-control, definitely worth it. Use it when you're not going to need the website. Now, the situation with YouTube is a bit complicated because I personally use it for studying. I have a lot of lectures available there, but at the same time, it's source of such a great number of distractions. You go on YouTube to access the topology lecture, and then you discover yourself an hour later in tears watching the final 5th game of TI3 Finals Na'Vi Alliance.
It's Jeopardy! There's a clip! It's going to be their last stand! Denny's back, he's going to try to focus everybody, but...
There is a wonderful extension that I use. It's called DF YouTube, I think. Distraction-free YouTube, you can look it up. So basically what it does is that it blocks all of the feed, all of the suggested videos. So when you go to YouTube, you see only dark gray screen and a search bar. You're not getting sucked away from the purpose you went to YouTube for in the first place. In the same league is the web extension called Asocial. And so what it does is that it blocks news feeds on social media. If I want to access my social media, when I need to go to my messages, to get some documents off of there, but I don't want to get sucked into consuming the content, the suggested news feed that the algorithm so generously put together for me. Instead of the news feed, I get this. That would make a wonderful motto, don't you think? And last but not least, I wanted to touch upon another great extension. It's called Empty new tab. Every time you open a new tab in the browser, normally you would get a lot of suggested websites, your bookmarks or pages you visit most often. It's really distracting. What it does is that, when you press new tab, it's just blank dark gray screen. No traps to suck you into. You're good to go. And as it goes for the laptop and the internet on that laptop, that's pretty much it. Those 4 tools should be sufficient to successfully keep you focused for the time frame that you set beforehand. Another important aspect that I wanted to touch upon: when to stop studying and what to do in between those blocks. As far as the duration goes, it's usually recommended to limit the amount of time you spend studying to about 60 to 90 minutes. That seems to be the optimal length, because if you spend less time, you're not doing much work done, and if you spend more, you get too tired and your focus starts to decrease. Inside this block, definitely no distractions allowed, like you don't use your phone just to have a quick rest. But sometimes it happens to me very often when I'm reading some like super complicated papers. You can literally feel your mental stack, your mental RAM filling up really quickly. I've been reading for 10-15 minutes. I'm full of information. I need to process this. I need to clear this stack. What I do in this case is to stand up, walk around the house, drink some water. If you have some like a light snack, you can grab a couple of nuts or like a piece of apple. Just a few minutes to process this amount of information if you feel overwhelmed by it. The point is, don't be afraid to take short, distraction-free rests if you feel like you need to. Another cool habit I think is worth implement is taking walks or some kind of physical exercise, like basically a very big break between the sequence of these blocks. So for example, what works for me is that I usually every day I take an hour walk around the neighborhood, around the woods. I go grab a cup of coffee in a local coffee shop, and then it's back like a sequence of these study blocks. I think this one's really crucial because resets your mind. It introduces this kind of anchor point, right? Your whole work breaks up into before the walk and after the walk, and like it has a lot of benefits. It's good for your body. It's good for refreshing completely. So a large block of active rest in the middle. That's pretty much all I have for you today. Drop a line in the comments, tips that you use personally that help you stay more focused and effective. Also, if you like the video and haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing to the channel, press the like button, share the video with your friends, and stay tuned for more interesting stuff coming up. Goodbye, and thanks for the interest in knowledge.